Hi y'all, welcome back to the Homestead. Today I'm going to be showing you how to can green beans step by step so that you can enjoy the taste of summer all year long. Whether you're buying in bulk from the farmer's market or harvesting from the garden like I am, this is a great way to preserve your harvest and be able to feed your family nourishing food from your pantry.
Once you've gathered up all of your green beans, you're going to start by washing them in cool water. This is just to get off any debris or bugs or whatever may be on the green beans. We had a little caterpillar on ours, so he had to go somewhere else. Once you've washed them off, you're going to snap off the ends and break them into bite-sized pieces. This can be 1 to 2 inch pieces, or I typically just take a green bean and snap it in half. Unless it's a really long green bean, I'll snap it into thirds. You can do this while you're chatting with the kids. Heck, you can get the kids to help, just like the good old days, while you're watching a show or even just listening to your favorite podcast. While you're snapping your beans, or your kids are snapping the beans, take this time to go ahead and sterilize your jars. You can run them through the dishwasher, or if your jars are clean, you can just place them in hot water or put hot water in them to keep them warm. This is basically just to make sure that when you do put your jars in the pressure canner, they don't crack from having a super huge temperature change. Speaking of pressure canner, go ahead and take your pressure canner and fill it with cool water about 2 to 3 inches from the bottom. And if by this point the kids are done snapping those green beans, you can go ahead and put your pressure canner on the stove and set that burner heat to high. While the water is heating up in the pressure canner, we're going to take this time to pack our jars. You can do a raw pack or a hot pack. I'm going to teach you today how to do a raw pack because it's quicker. We just pack the green beans tightly into the jar, leaving about a 1 inch of headspace at the top. Headspace is just a fancy term for the amount of air that's in between the very top of your jar and the top of whatever you're canning. And the purpose of this is just to allow enough room for expansion during the canning process, and it differs from recipe to recipe. So for today's purposes, just know it has to be 1 inch. Once you've packed those green beans in nice and tight into your jar, this is when we're going to add salt. Salt is optional, but I highly recommend it. It helps with the flavor. You're going to add a 1/2 teaspoon per pint or 1 teaspoon per quart. Since I'm doing quarts today, I will be doing 1 teaspoon. You can do a Celtic sea salt like I just showed you, or a coarse kosher salt, which is what I'm going to be adding today. Then you're going to add just plain hot boiling water to the tops of your jars. It definitely helps if you have a canning funnel so you don't make a huge mess, but it's just water, so who really cares? Remember to keep that 1 inch headspace. We are still keeping the 1 inch headspace here. A good rule of thumb for me to know where the 1 inch headspace mark is it's that first bump on the screw top of your jar. And before we put the lid on, you're going to use a bubble remover or a clean utensil. In my case, I used a chopstick to get out any of the trapped air that might be in between all the little green beans. Then you're going to wipe the rims with a clean, damp cloth to make sure that there's no residue that could affect the seal. Place your canning lids on and screw the bands on fingertip tight. Now, we're ready to can. Once the water in the pressure canner is just starting to boil, that's when we're going to place our jars into the canner. Make sure they're not touching, and please be careful about putting your jars into a hot pot. We don't need any burns. Make sure you're following the manufacturer's directions for your canner and lock the lid on the canner. Then, once the steam starts venting steadily, we're going to let it vent for 10 minutes. Next, add your weight and bring it up to pressure. We're looking for about 10 pounds of pressure, which is good for most altitudes, but always check your local guidelines. Once we've reached that 10 pounds of pressure, you're going to process. For pints, you're going to process for 20 minutes, and for quarts, you're going to process for 25 minutes. I typically like to turn my heat down at this point to a medium-low, and I'll adjust the temperature based off the temperature gauge while I'm watching it every couple of minutes. Once the time is up, turn the stove off and wait for the pressure valve to release naturally and sit flush with your lid. Then you can take your weight off of the top of the lid. This is when you know it's safe to unlock your lid and release the lid from your pressure canner. Make sure you open it away from you so you don't get a lot of steam all up in your face. Take canning tongs and carefully remove the jars of beans out from your pressure canner. You can set them right on the stove, or you can put them on a dish towel to rest. You're going to let them sit like this for 12 to 24 hours so that they can cool down and finish processing. Now comes the fun part, listening for those little pings to know that you have a good seal. Once your jars have cooled, make sure to label your green beans so you know when you canned them.
And that's it. Home canned green beans, ready for soups, casseroles, or a simple side dish. Thanks for canning with me today. And if you found this helpful, please like and subscribe for more homesteading tips and recipes. I'll see you next time.